G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, people. Terence Crawford becomes the first person ever to stop Shawn Porter. Does it in 10 rounds in what I thought was a very, very good, entertaining fight. I really did. Some people complaining about the stoppage. Kenny Porter, the dad of Shawn Porter, put up on the apron to get the fight stopped. Personally, I'll just touch on that before I start. Personally, I don't really have... You could say it was premature, yeah, but I think that in that round the right was on the wall anyway, and he wanted to spare his son further punishment because Crawford is a good finisher, and I think he would have finished Shawn Porter in that 10th round. But let's talk about the fight in a nutshell, because I felt this fight was very competitive the whole way through. It started off... Shawn Porter started off as he normally does. So, applying pressure, getting in on side, letting his shots go. Started off with a jab, but getting in using head movement and really just trying to put it on the opponent. Now, he had success early on in parts doing it, and I think Crawford was kind of... I don't think he was taken aback by Shawn Porter, no. I think he would have expected this was going to happen. I think the actual speed of Shawn Porter took Terence Crawford a little bit of time to adjust. From my eyes, it just kind of looked like, okay, I know what he's doing, but I'm not expecting him to do it as fast as he is, if that makes sense. And in the exchanges early on, like for example, the end of the first round and the end of the second round specifically, Shawn Porter was getting the better of the exchanges up close. Now, Terence Crawford can't fight up close. He was trying to keep it at range originally, but in the early on, Shawn Porter with his speed was able to just get in and just turn it into kind of a bit of a brawl. So Terence Crawford, he can fight on the inside, he can brawl a bit. He was happy to, go right ahead and exchange. And as I said, early on, it was apparent to me that Shawn Porter was getting the better of the exchanges. But Terence Crawford, he never looked worried. It never looked like, okay, I'm getting off, I'm biting a bit more than I can chew here. It looked like he was just kind of going through the motions. Right, this guy's speed is a little bit good. It's a little bit more than I thought it would be. But I can adjust, I can get by, and late on down the fight, when he does start to slow down, I'll take over. And that's basically how it happened. In the first 4 rounds, I gave the first 3 to Shawn Porter. Then the second round, I should say, was kind of... It really depended on what you liked. I know Andre Ward gave it to Porter, Max Kellerman gave it to Crawford. It was one of them rounds. I liked the exchanges, and I liked the fact that Shawn Porter was getting the better of the exchanges, so that's why I just gave him that round. I just edged it to him. But for the most part early on, I thought Porter was getting the better of it. He just seemed to be, without hurting Terence Crawford, as Andre Ward said on commentary, he's not hurting him, but he's outlanding him, and he's picking up points along the way. So for the first few rounds, they were Shawn Porter. Terence Crawford, to me, it was apparent that he was trying to adjust himself to the speed, and he was looking to counter Shawn Porter as he was coming in. And as you'll see later on down the stretch, that's exactly what he started to do. He was also having a good bit of success offsetting Shawn Porter. So when he would come in early on, what Terence Crawford was doing was he was actually throwing shots to Shawn Porter's body and chest. For example, I think it was the 4th round, he landed a good jab to Shawn Porter's chest. Now, when you're Shawn Porter and you're boring in like that, okay, just jabs like that to the chest, they'll offset you, because they'll offset your balance. They'll actually make you look more hurt than you actually are, because if your balance isn't right, if someone goes up to your chest and gives you a push, well, you're going to move back instantly, because you're not setting right, you're a bit off balance. So it was good work from Terence Crawford there. He also cut Shawn Porter early on. It's pretty common for Shawn Porter to cut. As I say, scar tissue kind of doesn't tend to ever really fully heal, so that wasn't out of the order that they didn't have seen already. The only thing I will say is there was a lot of... The heads were kind of coming together a bit much. I think the 6th round, Crawford ended up getting hit with like a decent headbutt, and the referee called time. I'm not sure, he wasn't like cut or anything like that, or he wasn't cut bad anyway. But Shawn Porter's always been a bit reckless with the head. Later on down the stretch was when Crawford seemed to really take a foothold in the fight. He seemed to be able to counter Shawn Porter a lot better. The speed from Shawn Porter, although it's slightly diminished, Crawford I think was able to acclimatise to it. And as they said on commentary about Shawn Porter has fought people who hit as hard as Crawford. He's fought people who can box as well as Crawford. He's fought people as fast. He fought people who are good on the inside. He's never fought anyone where it's all them things in one. Spence is not particularly fast. He's an okay puncher. He is very strong. But I would say that Crawford is faster. I think that he's a better counter puncher. I think that he's probably a little bit better up. Well, Errol Spence can fight up close too, but Crawford has a little bit of everything. And I think that was getting a bit to Shawn Porter. And in the 10th round, it was a lovely counter right hand when Shawn Porter came in. He went down. Didn't look out of it or anything like that. You know, at this stage now, you would have had Crawford ahead. I know the scorecards at the end were very close. They all had Crawford winning. I would have had Crawford up at the time of the stoppage as well, but it would have been very close. Like, only by a round or maybe even a draw, depending on what way you give the rounds at that stage. It was a very nip and tuck fight. Very, as it so often is with these kind of elite level welterweight fights. And Shawn Porter is an elite level welterweight, make no mistake about it. At this level, it really is nip and tuck. It's a case of one little thing, and it could be the case of just pulling your jab back a fraction too late and getting hit with a left hook. Stuff that's so minor at this level makes such a big difference. It makes such a big difference at this level. And Shawn Porter was able to get caught with a right hand, went down, wasn't particularly hurt. Crawford then put him down again with another combination. Shawn Porter, again, he didn't look particularly out of it. You know, he was, on the second knockdown, he was slamming his fist on the canvas. He was banging the canvas in frustration that he was dropped. But at that stage, he got up. Kenny Porter came up to the apron, stopped the fight. Personally, I think it was the correct decision. Now, I'm someone who does say when it's a premature stoppage, I don't like them. I think that was going to end badly for Shawn Porter. And I like Shawn Porter, I really do. One of my favourite fighters. I think that was going to end badly for him. So I think Kenny Porter did the right thing in that regard. Stopped it then and there, and, you know, we move on. Terence Crawford is now a free agent. He's no longer with Bob Arum. So he said if Bob Arum can't get him to fight with Errol Spence when he's with him, what's he going to do now? I suspect that Terence Crawford's next move will be to Al Heyman in an attempt to make the Errol Spence fight. The one thing I worry about Spence is, and here, look, I love Crawford versus Spence. I wanted to see that fight from years ago. There was a time when Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua were talking about Undisputed, and I was like, I would rather see Spence Crawford. Not that that fight's not good, it is, but I just think Spence Crawford is fantastic. I worry about Spence now because of the eye injury that forced him out of the Manny Pacquiao fight. Eye injuries are not as straightforward as, you know, say a broken hand or a dislocated shoulder, and even that's not straightforward. Eye injuries can have lasting consequences. They can never fully heal, and I do worry about Errol Spence. I do. And I like Errol Spence as well. Like, I like Terence Crawford, I like Shawn Porter, I like Errol Spence, I like all three of them. I could watch all three of them happily. Errol Spence is someone who I've always enjoyed watching. I just worry, is that eye injury a potential, and God forbid, touch wood, is it a potential career ender? Because I remember those pictures of him after the car crash, and I think it was the left eye, and you could see that eye did not look right. It just, you go back and look at the pictures, it didn't look right. And I believe that was the guy that was injured going into the Pacquiao fight. So it is a worry. And saying that, with Spence, he's been very inactive. I mean, he's had one fight in 2 years, you know, and I just worry, has the car crash taken away from him? So if he is going to fight Crawford, I don't think we'll ever see the Spence who fought Porter. I don't think we'll ever see that Spence again. I hope I'm wrong. But a crash as violent as that, I just don't see. If he comes back, if this eye injury is a formality and he can come back, I don't know. Will he be right? Will we ever see the Spence? Against Danny Garcia, he looked good. There was still jitters. And Danny Garcia, I've never rated as an elite welterweight, a good welterweight, but not an elite. So I worry about that. I would have loved to have seen these guys meet at their peak when they were both firing on all cylinders. That would have been 2017, 2018, in my opinion. Would love to have seen it then. In terms of Shawn Porter, he announced his retirement. He said that win, lose or draw, retiring. Shawn Porter, one of my favourite welterweights to watch. One of my favourite fighters to watch. Great career, 2-time welterweight champion. He's only lost to the very best, Turman, Porter, Crawford and Brook. And the Brook fight was very close. When I watched the Turman fight originally, I actually thought he won it. Subsequent viewing, I changed my mind. Again, with Spence, split decision. So he's only really lost to these guys by the finest of margins. It's not like he's gone in to fight all these top guys and been, you know, iced or completely mismatched. Even against Crawford, Very competitive fight the whole way through. So credit to Shawn Porter. Absolutely fantastic fighter. Great career. And Shawn Porter seems like a really, really cool guy as well. Heaven forbid when Conor Benn beat Vargas in April and they were calling out Shawn Porter. Could you imagine? Could you imagine if Eddie Hearn said, let's give it a go, and he offered him a couple of million? He would have made light work of Conor. Heaven forbid. That's the difference between elite and prospect. Like, prospect is down there. Boots Ennis and Virgil Ortiz are there at contenders. Then there's world level. Then there's elite, man. Then there's elite. And Shawn Porter is still elite welterweight. So he's not retired. He's retiring. But make no mistake about it. Him against Ugas, him against Boots, they'd be good fights. A rematch with Ugas, I should say. You know, great wins like that against Ugas, Garcia, Broner, etc. Yeah, Shawn Porter, credit to him. That's my thoughts on this fight. Let me know yours in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe this evening. I haven't done a Sunday live in a while. I don't have anything on this evening, so maybe we will go live for an hour or so and have a little chit chat about this. But for now, lads and lassies, hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like if you did, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll talk to you.